very much. Hello, everyone. This is Rick with XYZ Modeling and Graphics. Welcome back to all my subscribers, and of course, to all my new subscribers, I want to thank you for signing up and joining our little family here, which continues to grow each month to my surprise. And thank you very much for all you guys. I'm not really getting paid for any of this, but it is fun and it is nice to know that we're building our own little community here and that there are people out there that can stand to listen to my voice for longer than 15 minutes. We're going to dive into issue number 53, and 54 will follow. And we're not really doing anything new here. We're just continuing on with the upper port engine and wing. And there's really, it's our fourth wing. We've gone through this plenty of times, and there really isn't much difference between them. Depending on whether or not it's a lower or an upper, those are the only major differences here, because obviously we've got the landing gear in the lower wings. So with this being the upper wing, we're not going to have the landing gear bay doors or anything like that to deal with. So we're starting off here as usual. We're opening up our packaging, verifying that everything is present and accounted for. And as per usual, I like to sort my screws out in their own little individual containers. And I found these little miniature red solo cup shot glasses type thing, and I really like them. They're handy. And when I clean up my table, I can stack them on top of each other without worrying about the screws falling out, which is kind of nice. So we're starting off here with the little detail piece that goes along the bottom edge of the engine mount, and you have your little Lego style piece that fits into itself and is pressed onto the detail, the edge detail, trailing edge detail. So, it's a little fidgety. They're small, and I wish my camera could get in there a little tighter, guys, but I just can't really pull that off very well. Not with the cameras that I have anyway. So as time goes on, I might figure out a way to improve that. And if you guys have any suggestions, please feel free to tell me. I am not an expert in cinematography here. So I've got two cameras. Obviously, we'll probably change view here in a moment. But one is just a little handheld HD digital camera, and the other one is a more sophisticated DSLR camera, which I'm using for this shot right here. But anyway, enough of my production problems. Yeah, we're continuing on here with some bracing, and I'm sure this looks familiar to everybody. Thank God for those magnetic screwdrivers. It makes it really easy to pull them out of the container. They are quite small, as everyone knows by now, so it's a delicate little procedure to screw these screws into place sometimes. But I really like the detail that they've put onto these parts so far, and I have no reason to believe that the rest of the ship won't be equally as detailed. It's a really nice looking, I think it will be a very nice looking piece when it's all said and done. Obviously, I am going to be changing the paint scheme, and I cannot wait to get to that. As a matter of fact, I believe my next month we're going to go ahead and get started on that. When I say we, I mean my wife and I, because she's a very talented artist, very talented painter, and she does very well with the fine details and weathering and all the airbrush work. She's very, very good at it. I'm a better artist behind the computer screen on like a AutoCAD style program or any kind of graphics program for that matter. And I can do the major painting like base colors and things like that. But I let her handle the detail, and I will be filming that. So if anybody has any desire to watch how we paint this model, please let me know. Well, it doesn't matter if you let me know or not, because we're going to do it anyway. And I'll just keep an eye on the comments to see if anybody has any issues with it. But it should be pretty interesting. Aside from just putting this model together, there's really nothing challenging about it. You know, you just, if you have the ability to follow directions, obviously you can pull this off. Also want to take a moment to respond to some subscriber questions, and I'd like to do this especially in cases like this where the build process is redundant and kind of boring to watch. I'd like to add a little bit of flavor to this video by answering subscriber questions versus me responding to everybody on the I'll like or favorite your comment for sure, but I think I'm going to go ahead and start answering them on the videos. So if you guys are willing to put up with that, that's what I'll do. So about 5 days ago, according to YouTube, Daniel Hockenberry, hey Daniel, he writes, for the money we are paying, you'd think they would have put some working landing gear indoors for us. Yes, I do agree that this model is slightly overpriced. Well, not slightly, it's more than slightly. But part of the fun of building these models, especially for the, you know, the semi-pros out there and the pros that build models for a living, you know, this is an opportunity to make modifications like that on their own. Now, we could do that. I don't know necessarily the benefit of an automated landing gear system necessarily, unless you had a way of, you know, simulating the ship taking off or something like that. I would imagine they're going to give us some sort of mounting system for this ship, but I don't know how that would work. Daniel, if you've got a different idea than what I'm thinking of, then please feel free to respond. But yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to do that, you could figure that out. A couple servos, you know, you get a Arduino Mini or some other kind of microprocessor, and you can, you know, write a simple script to open those doors and lower some kind of linear actuator for the landing gear or something. You know, you could do it. So, Daniel, I encourage you to come up with an idea. So, another question from Daniel is, he was just wondering, now that I glued the wings together, if you have any electrical needs later, how do I plan to open that back up without breaking it? Well, that's a very good question, and as a matter of fact, I ended up having to do that with one of my wings. And what happened there electrically was the just beneath the connector or actually the connector itself kind of came loose and separated from the conductors that were in there. So I had to open up that wing, and I just gently did it. I used a very thin set of tweezers that I had and just gently pried up. Now, when you're using CA glue, yeah, obviously you want to make sure that you're only doing it when you're confident that you won't be going back into the part or piece that you assembled. But it's not necessarily permanent. If you don't go overboard with your glue and you try to be as precise with it and use as little as possible, you will be able to get back in there with a slightly more pressure or leverage applied to the piece. It will come apart, but that all depends on the amount that you put on to begin with. So it is possible, Daniel, but all in all, once that wiring is connected and put into place, there is a very slim chance that it's going to be disturbed and lose its electrical integrity. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I didn't videotape my having to go back into one of my wings. I did some light tests. Since we were working on the fourth one, I ended up testing the last three we did prior to handing them over to my wife for painting. And discovered that one of them actually wasn't working, and I was able to pry up that the bottom skin of the wing and access that connection point. So anyway, that's my 2 cents about that. So here we are working on our little intake detail for the engine. And because this assembly is basically compressed between the two halves of the engine cover, I'm not using much CA glue at all, if any. The pieces are fitting together tightly enough with very little seams, so it's in good shape. It's not necessary to do that. That just slips right into the engine. So guys, that wraps up issue 54. We'll see you in the next video.